Welcome to the 76 Capital Leadership Series. My name is Wayne Kimmel, and I'm the host of 76 Capital's Leadership Series, as well as the managing partner of our venture capital fund. And on this show, I interview top sports entrepreneurs, athletes, and executives who are truly shaping the way and all the new things that are happening in the sports industry. I want to give a shout out first before we get started to Steve back at the station who's running all the controls. Steve, thanks for pinch hitting for James. Really appreciate all the work that you're doing for us back there. And you can follow this podcast as well as myself. You can follow me at Wayne Kimmel, as well as all the things that we do at 76 Capital across all social media networks. You can subscribe to our podcast on all the ways you go find your podcast. If it's Apple, if it's Spotify, whatever makes you happy, you can find that. You can find our shows on YouTube TV as well as IGTV. And the biggest thing for us is we want to reach out and connect with all of you. If you're doing something new and interesting, sort of the next thing in sports, reach out to us at 76 Capital. We would love to have a conversation with you. But we have an amazing guest today, and we got to get right to it. We have Alexy Posner. She's our guest today, and I'm so excited to have her as part of our show today. So, Alexy, welcome to our 76 Capital Leadership Series.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. I've seen some of the many other guests that you've had, and wow, what company to be in. So thank you so much for having me. And I had no idea you had such a great voice for like radio and podcasting. Well, you just turned it on. Oh my goodness, this is awesome.
Well, we're going to have some fun, and that's one of the big things that we do on our 76 Capital Leadership Series, and we can't wait to hear your story, how you have, where you grew up, how you got into the sports and entertainment world, how you started representing such important and interesting people all across the country, and how you built, AP Brand Group, and I want to hear all that. But before we get to that, one of the things that we love to do on our 76 Capital Leadership Series is to hear the backstory, where you grew up, and kind of were there some mentors or some friends or some things that kind of helped you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so I grew up on the main line, born and raised from the Philadelphia area, went to Friend Central, and child of two doctors. And that was always my thought. I was going to go into sports medicine and surgery for equine sports medicine and surgery. So I wanted to be a vet, following my parents and my grandfather's footsteps. And went to Friend Central, grew up as a professional athlete myself. There's like a picture of one of my horses behind me. So that was my love for so long, and did that until I was 21, and then went to Franklin and Marshall and graduated from there. But growing up as an athlete, I knew that was always just this area that I wanted to stay in and be in, and was so excited about the energy that came from working with athletes and being an athlete myself. And so there was this tinkering, as things with vet school were starting to fall through, of ooh, maybe that's actually the path that I want to go on. But working in sports and entertainment was never the plan off the bat. It was always go to vet school. So, yeah.
Well, I have to ask you the question. I mean, the picture behind you of you on the horse there. I mean, what was it like, training as a young woman, training? And I mean, that's serious. I mean, talk about the time and dedication that you had to put into that.
Yeah, I mean, you asked me about mentors and people in my life that shaped who I am, and my mom was one of those people. At the age of 11, I had the choice. I'm 5'11", so it was either swim, continue with my passion with horses, or maybe do neither and do them both kind of as a hobby. And she saw the talent. She listened to the trainers and sat me down and was like, we will support your horses. I will do everything in my power to help you get to fulfill all of your dreams. But you have to have straight A's. You're going to be mucking the stalls. You're not going to be some rich kid that shows up and is handed their horse. You're going to be in the barn at 5 a.m. every single morning. And as an 11-year-old, you're like, this is okay. Yeah, sure. I sign up for this. I don't really know the difference, but it definitely shaped who I am. And it led to me graduating high school at 16, moving out and going out on my own. I moved in with my trainer at the time, Leslie Law, who won the gold medal in Athens. I was down in Florida by myself. So I kind of grew up very, very early and had this interesting sense of self around how that outcomes are based on how hard you work. And it's sometimes like you can only control certain circumstances, but what you can control is your energy and your effort and how you show up every single day. And I think that's where like growing up as an athlete and growing up with all this pressure on me, it definitely cued me for like later success. And yeah.
So I have to ask, was there a specific horse that you rode that you had a special relationship with? I've heard that that some riders, they're like, I just love, this is my horse. And was there a special horse that you had when you were growing up?
For sure. I was a terrible business person when it came to the horse industry. A lot of other people, actually this horse that's in the picture behind me, I bought him off the track for $4,000. And Karen O'Connor, who's a Olympian, offered my parents like 80,000+ for him. And I was like, nope, nope. He's my horse. I'm going to the Olympics on him, whatever. And so I was a terrible business person when it came to that side of things. But I had one horse. Her name was Chelsea Rose, that I got when I was 13. She was my first horse off of ponies, and kept her until she passed away. And that was the one. My parents were very sweet. They're like, she's your only pet. Everyone else, like, you want a new horse, you got to sell the horse, kind of thing. So I got to keep Chelsea for a long time.
That's a great story. That's awesome. So, and then what kind of, how did it kind of end or sort of retire in the horse part of your career?
We're diving right into it. I should have probably brought some tissue boxes out. No, going into the 2012 Olympic Games, it was very apparent, my long-term competitiveness was not going to be there. A lot of it being, there was sort of twofold. One being just the financial commitment to getting to some of those higher levels. I was competing against individuals that were sitting on several $1 million horses. And I was so blessed and so lucky. And so to do it really well, I would have had to not go back to school. So I was a junior, finishing up my junior year at that time. And, it was that tough conversation where my parents were like, this isn't even an option anymore. Like, you got to go back to school. You're not going to not graduate. Like, you have to go. And it was really tough. And I actually became, pretty much a shell of my former self for a couple of years, and was just like this dark hole, because everything that I had ever known, my whole identity was based around horses. And all of a sudden now I'm like, when someone says like, hey, how are you? Like, who are you? I couldn't say I'm an athlete. Like, I was like, I'm Alexi, like, and I didn't know what that meant. And that was such a huge catalyst for me to want to work with athletes and help them lay the foundation that while they were playing, they could have something that not only to fall back on when their career was over, but that's something they were passionate about too. Because you go from being someone that's so hyper-focused from like, day in to day out, your exercise, your meals, your every ounce of your life is focused on one thing, on one career. And then all of a sudden it's gone. And that could be an injury, that could be a whatever that took it away at outside circumstances. And then you're just left with what? So that was a huge moment for me. And it took a couple years to really shift into that perspective around like how I was going to use my experience to then create a career post my writing career being done.
Well, we're really lucky to have Alexy Posner on our 76 Capital Leadership Series, and we do sometimes go a little deep, right? We really like to hear the backstory of our guests and really what's made them who they are today, and all the things that you just shared with us really make so much sense as to why you're able to help your clients, and whether they're athletes or entertainers, because of the experiences that you personally have had. And you understand their feelings, you understand what they're going through. So why don't you share with us? So after after college, and you went on you did a couple of really interesting things before you started your own company.
Yeah. So, knowing that I wanted to work in sports, my goal, I actually linked up with a guy named Chris Cabot, who I know you had Lee Steinberg on a previous episode. So I had met Chris back in high school. And Chris. Oh, you had both of them on.
We had both of them on.
They're both amazing, amazing people who I just credit so much to, and had met Chris back when I was in college, and just stayed in touch with him, and was like, oh, I'm going to be an agent. I want to be an agent. And I then decided I didn't want to stay in school. So I was like, not going to start in a mailroom, not going to go to law school. I'm going to figure out a backdoor approach to getting to where I want to go. So got a job with the Lancaster Barnstormers. And it's one of the things I tell everyone, like, you want to work in sports, go work for a minor league baseball team because you will learn so much. You'll get your hands in so many different pots. So worked for the Barnstormers, started as an unpaid intern and, just worked my way up with them, and then had an opportunity to go over to the Reading Fightin' Phils, which was so exciting for me. Born and raised from Philadelphia, being able to work with a Phillies affiliate was just like a dream come true. And those years in baseball definitely shaped not only my future career, but also just my mentality around how I want to show up. I got to learn the game, really well. And I know one of the questions you asked was like, who was a mentor for you? And there's a fellow named Jake Fox who played in the league for a long time. And he was a rover man throughout the minor leagues. And he just became a big brother to me, and he taught me the game and really helped me understand taking baseball and how does that equate to life, right? Like controlling what you can control, being able to shift from pitch to pitch, not from at bat to at bat, like all these big key items that really then transcended into kind of my business career. But worked for the Fightin' Phils and got picked up out of there to go work for the Reading Royals. And so I was with the Royals for a little while as their in-arena host, which maybe was my most fun job I ever had. I loved running around with a microphone and talking to fans, and then started AP Brand Group.
That's amazing. I mean, to just hear all the experiences. I mean, there must have been, you certainly, it was really interesting, having a specific mentor and someone that really helped you. But, being in and around minor league baseball, were there any really funny stories or just things that you'll just never forget because of what?
Oh gosh. I mean, there's so many of them. Working in minor league baseball, you really do wear every single hat. So there were for sure times I loved certain aspects of my role. I did not love many others. But my first day with the Barnstormers, I showed up in, I have two good ones actually. Okay, so I showed up in heels and basically pulled stuff out of my mom's closet. I had no idea what professional dress looked like. And this is something, I didn't know how to what my style should be. And so I think I literally pulled an Ann Taylor suit out of my mom's closet. And I get there and I get handed a bucket of paint and a paintbrush. And they're like, go paint the stadium steps. And I'm like, yep, okay, here we go. And went and painted stadium steps in heels in this ridiculous look. That was definitely one of the funny ones. I've been put in costumes and mascot suits time and time again. You basically are a jack of all trades and wear every single hat that you possibly can. And I think the best moment that will always ring true. So I knew I wanted to work with athletes, and I went to Kristen Simon, who was at the time the general manager of the Barnstormers. She, one of the first female GMs in baseball, just a really amazing woman. And I said to her, hey, I want to represent players. I want to get access to the guys. And as a 21-year-old female, all the interns wanted access to the players, right? And I'm like, no, I really want access to the players. I'm not talking that way. I want to work with them. And she's like, all right, you go down and talk to Butch Hobson, who was the manager of the time. Talk to him. If he is into it, it's totally fine with me as long as your other work gets done. I'm like, got it. So go down to the clubhouse, knock on the door. Butch comes out and he is the most crusty old baseball, darling swinging type of fellow, weathered skin, he's one of the remaining few old school baseball guys. So opens the door, he's like, what can I do for you, darling? I'm like, hey, I'm Alexi. This is this is what I want to do. Would you give me an opportunity to work with some of your players? He goes, I'll tell you what, sweetheart, you come back tomorrow. I'll have all the guys lined up. You get one guy to agree to work with you. You're good. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can totally do this. So the next day, wear my best outfit. I come trucking down in this great pencil skirt and heels. And I was so confident. He had told all the players that I was going to be there. So every single one of them was shirtless and they just had small towels sitting on. So I walk into the clubhouse and they're literally just 30 of them lined up around the outside of their lockers, and none of them have clothes on. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Yep, here we go. So, and the one of them, who is still a dear friend, Blake Galen, I'm going to throw him under the bus, sat there flexing his pecs at me the entire time. He was out of my left-hand corner and just sat there bouncing his pecs. And I was like, don't break focus. You got this. You got this. And then afterwards, he came up and was like, hey, I'm Blake. That was awesome. I just put you through the ringer. Like, I'll work with you. And he was actually my first ever athlete client that I got to do community relations with. So
what a story. What a story. Well,
sorry, long-winded, but it's a good one.
They're great stories. And Alexi, it's amazing to hear these kinds of things. And these are the kind of things that we love to have, on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. These kinds of stories, people like you who have been through all the different levels of sports. I mean, from a minor league perspective, being an athlete yourself, and then at the same time now working with professional athletes, with broadcasters, with entertainers. It's amazing, and really appreciate you taking the time to being on our show. So you went, after minor league baseball, you started your own company. I mean, what was that like?
Yeah. So I had this moment where I was working for the Reading Royals, which is the ECHL affiliate of the Flyers, and, making literally no money. I think I made $30,000 a year working insane hours. And I was just like, gosh, if I'm going to work this hard, and not make any money, I might as well work this hard for myself and not make any money. Like, what's the, what's the trade? Like, what am I going to lose if I kind of bet on myself? And I also had just these, it was a consistent pattern where doors just felt like they were being closed on me, and circumstances. And I was like, I don't get this. Like, this feels weird. Why is this happening? With even though I loved my role with the Barnstormers, loved my role with the Fightin' Phils, and loved what I did with the Royals, like, something never quite felt right. It never quite felt like I was in the flow and I was like succeeding. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just go for it. And I had this instance where I'd taken a job out in LA. I decided to leave the Royals, took a job in LA. A couple days before my job started, I got a text message saying the opportunity was off the table. And I took that. I was like, all right, bet on yourself, go for it. So I moved back in at the age of 26 with mom and dad and started my company. And I literally called every single person I'd ever met in sports and just said, this is what I'm doing. I will work for you for free. I want to prove my worth. And advice that I had been given actually by Jake Fox early on in my career, which is a compilation of like a Maya Angelou quote of, basically, people won't remember exactly what you say or what you do. They'll remember the way you made them feel. And that always stuck with me in the sense of like, you never know where someone's going to be, and not that it matters where they'll be, but like just show up as authentically and kind as you can every single day and treat people that way. And the right stuff kind of comes back to you. So thankfully, I guess I had left a good enough impression. And a gentleman named J.R. Tolver, who I had met actually through Lee and Chris, it all like comes back full circle, was like, hey, I have somebody for you. And he introduced me to a former NFL player named Fakir Brown, and I helped him start a foundation. And JR loved what I did for him and introduced me to my first real client, Akbar Gbajabiamila, who's the host of American Ninja Warrior and former NFL player. So it was a lot of luck, a lot of divine intervention, and a lot of hard work. So Akbar was like my first big guy, and it's been 4.5 years since then.
Wow. So share with us with Akbar, what do you do, with and for him, and what is that relationship like between the two of you?
So I started as I got in the door with him working on his social media, purely like, let me handle your social. And I knew I was going to be able to find a way to prove my worth. And I ran his social, and then slowly but surely I kind of started handling like some of his like PR stuff. And then we were at the NBC upfronts a couple months into us working together, which was in May. We started working together in December. And he kept introducing me as Alexi. And I turned to him and I'm like, listen, I don't care what title you give me. You can call me your executive assistant for all I care. But I do think we need to differentiate, because we're out and about at the NBC upfronts. You're married, and people know I'm not your wife. And like, this is we need to clarify that like I work for you kind of thing. And he was like, oh, okay. Well, what do you want your title to be? I'm like, I don't care. Call me whatever you want. Your executive assistant, your publicist, like you pick, bro. And he's like, I don't know. You want to be my manager? And I was like, okay, well, my knowledge of what that term means comes from the show Entourage. So if you're cool with that, I'm cool with that. He goes, you'll figure it out. And so from then on, I was like, all right, I'm a talent manager. kind of bullshitted my way through it, excuse my language, but I'm like, at the beginning, I'm like, I'm just going to go figure it out. And so now, I have an athlete and talent management firm. It's definitely evolved over the last 4.5 years. And the thing that hasn't evolved is the mission statement, which is that I wanted to work with athletes and talent who were excited to use their platform to create positive social change. So for me, I think we've all been given different gifts from God, and it's our purpose to use those gifts to make the world a better place. And through that, it's really led me to some amazing clients. So I know I didn't fully answer, but Akbar, everything that I was doing for him was just from, creation of a larger brand. Like, how can we put him in opportunities that his likeness and his image are going to grow? How can we make him, like taking things that we've learned from like what Constance Schwartz has done with Michael Strahan to, Nate Burleson, he's done an amazing job. Like, how can we take what we've learned from that and grow Akbar's brand and his platform and putting him in the right situations to do that?
Well, you've certainly done a heck of a job, and congratulations. I mean, it's amazing to hear it, and I love the values behind your business. It's something that we believe is so important here at 76 Capital, with wanting to work with smart and nice, passionate people that want to change the world and do really big things. And I knew my partner Chad Stender, said we needed to meet because of that, and there was going to be some kind of a tie here. So. We really appreciate those things, and think that's what it's all about. I mean, we are all here to try to make this world a little bit better, one bit by bit, right? I mean, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. No, and that's the thing. Like, I know this is probably funny because you guys do handle so much. Like you are 76 Capital. And so I'm like, I've never been financially driven. For me, it was always impact driven. And I've actually turned clients down who come to me and say, let's make millions of dollars together. And I'm not delusional. I get you have to make money. And that is a huge part of my role, is driving revenue for clients. But I do think if you lead from a place just like you guys do, of this want to use your platform to do better, this want to positively help those around you and be that ripple effect, like the finances come, the rest of it comes, all the good stuff comes with it, because you're leading with an intention that has a purpose and has a great purpose behind it. And it's just vibrating at a different level. So, yeah.
Well, you've built a heck of a roster of clients, and that you're now a talent manager, as you said. I mean, what a great story that you shared with us, and share with us some of the other clients that you're working with today. And I'm sure you have awesome stories around each one of them.
I am so lucky. I have the coolest, best, most eclectic group of clients, from like the #1 dating coach in the UK, a woman named Lady Nadia Essex, who's like wild and amazing, to Jaleel White, who famously played Steve Urkel in Family Matters and is one of like the most iconic faces of the 90s, to several current NFL players, which was so interesting. Going into the pandemic, my focus was going to be all about producing, creating new TV shows. I've been lucky enough to sell a couple of shows in the past to Universal Studios, and pandemic hit, and I was like, I thought I was transitioning away from athletes, and all of a sudden I was straight up way more into the athlete space, which was super cool to get a couple guys. So I've got a few players down on the Dolphins and one on the Texans, and Alex Mack, who's out on the 49ers now. But a few other stories, like Jaleel White, man, that one was awesome. I met him on the set of American Ninja Warrior. I helped him. He came out as a guest one night, and he just, I guess, liked how I took care of him and his daughter and his girlfriend at the time, and got my number, and we just developed a relationship, just a friendship over time. And this past year, he asked me to start working. It's been a year now. He asked me to start working with him, and really just the get-go was just get him organized and figure out where he was going and how we were going to take sort of this iconic face and the nostalgia factor around Steve Urkel and move it into 2021 or 2020. And we did that through launching It's Purple, which is a cannabis line. And so this, like, I know one of the things I think we're going to get to is like something that I'm the most proud of. And this is definitely one of the most proud moments. We on this past 420 launched It's Purple, which is a strain of cannabis called Purple Urkel. Very random. I've never done drugs in my life. I've never smoked cannabis in my life. And now I'm running a cannabis company. And not that I would consider cannabis like a drug, but growing up as an athlete, I was drug tested from the time I was 13. So I just guess I like missed that phase. But yeah, so we launched this. We took back his licensing. We took back basically the Purple Urkel brand, which people had been bootlegging his face. If you know anything about cannabis, people had been bootlegging his face for the last 20 years and using his likeness. And we launched the official Purple Urkel.
Wow. Well, I mean, Urkel. I mean, just the, it's just funny to hear that, and I mean, and the fact that he's leaning into it, right? I mean, was that something that was hard for you to have that conversation with him? Because, like, I'm sure he's like, oh, I got to grow up. I'm not Steve Urkel anymore. I'm Jaleel White. I'm a man, right? I'm a father, right? How did that work? That he's still kind of comfortable in building a business around that?
Such a great question, and definitely, a topic that had to be broached with a lot of sensitivity. It's a little bit the same way the actor that played Carlton, right? Like, he walks down the street and everyone's like, hey, do the Carlton. It's also like, people come up to Jaleel and they're like, did I do that? And he's like the kindest, nicest person and will take every single photo with people. And, people are like, oh, Steve. And he's like, hello, Jaleel. Nice to meet you. How's it going? He's so kind and so grateful about where he came from. And I think it took a lot of conversation around, like, okay, how do we bring Steve into the 2020, 2021? What does that character look like now? And then also he's been really waiting. People have been wanting him to replay this character for a long time and sort of sell out on it. And it was like, let's wait until this and makes the most sense. And I think that's why I would say I'm the most proud of this moment, just because we did it right. Like, between the celebrity activation, between like the press that came forward, between even just the branding, like, we honored the character, the legacy, the nostalgia, and brought it into this sort of space age, new wave type of feel. So it was a lot of really compassionate conversations around, his feelings and where he was at. And he's also just such a smart businessman and such a tuned guy that he was all for it once it all made sense. But it was pretty wild. It was really fun.
So how did the launch go? You said you launched on 420, and how did it go?
It went so well. It was so exciting. So we kicked it off with a Forbes article, which was really cool. And then Forbes hit, and it went totally viral because Jaleel's laid a little low recently. He's in Adam Sandler's new movie, which is actually shooting here in Philly. But outside of that, he's laid low a little bit for the last year. And so that Forbes article went totally viral. Rolling Stone picked it up, New York Post. And so all of a sudden, we just had so much press. But it was then he finally played the character for the first time in 20 years. And right before the Logan Paul fight, Logan Paul? Who fought? Which one?
Jake Paul.
Thank you. I'm like one of the Paul brothers. Right before the Jake Paul fight, Jaleel actually played the character for the first time in 20 years with Snoop Dogg in a clip leading into the fight on Triller. So that was this like moment of, we're really like, it took a lot of planning and a lot of effort, but it went great. We sold out of everything within 10 minutes of all the places we dropped. We're in the process of growing our whole next line. So the next drop comes soon. And most of our merch sold out. A couple pieces are still available on our website, but yeah, it was pretty cool. And then we rolled up, so in the show, he drove a BMW Isetta, like this tiny little bug looking thing. And so designed a giant Airstream. And so we actually rolled up in this huge Airstream that was wrapped like the BMW Isetta, and went to Tiffany Haddish and King Batch and Lamorne and rolled up on all of his celebrity friends' houses and gifted them products and, got some really cool, fun micro content from that.
That's amazing. I mean, so were you with him? Were you? I mean, you're doing so much with and for him. So, like, from a digital perspective, I mean, getting all that content. How do you deal with that? I mean, Urkel again. Like, you just say the name, and and everyone knows who that is. And so, how do you deal with him, and from a social perspective, and making sure that you get the right message out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it was really capturing what his voice was going to be, and he's been great about sort of testing the limits a little bit on his social. Like some of his memes sort of test the limits, and it's really creating. His brand is super different than Akbar's. Akbar is like faith, family. He'll never see him sip alcohol. Like he has a very concrete brand. Jaleel's is a little bit more of an amoeba because not only does he identify with so many age groups, you ask anyone, they're like, I grew up on him. It could be your age group, my age group, your kids, like people of all ages know Family Matters and Steve Urkel. And so we've been able to sort of push and test boundaries a little bit in a way that I don't get to do with other clients. So it's really, really fun for me. But it was a definite like active conversation around, okay, so Jay, this is what your social is going to be. And then this is how we're going to parlay that voice to what its purple social is going to be, or at Purple Urkel is the handle. And knowing that we wanted purple to be this kind of convergence of lifestyle and food and cannabis and nostalgia and like celebrity relations and never making it feel like he sold out. And so that's all. It's like an ebb and flow conversation. Like he literally just texted me and was like, hey, I was changing the post for today. I'm like, okay, cool. Like it's, every moment it sort of swaps back and forth a bit.
Is there a certain platform that you use with him, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, or like what's specific, or do you use everything? How do you decide that with a specific client? I mean, I want to talk about Sal Palantonio. I'm sure he's different than Jaleel White, and then like there's. So how do you?
Sal is so different. I just had lunch with Sal literally on Friday, and he's like, I logged out of my Instagram the last time I saw you 6 months ago. Can't figure out how to log back in. Can you help me? And you're like, got you. Like, no worries. It's like wildly different, both ends of the spectrum. I think the biggest thing that I'll say to a client is like, we're only going to have as many platforms as we can be successful on. It's all well and dandy if you're going to have, and this is my personal approach. I'm sure other people have a different view on it, but if we're going to have a TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Triller, all of these things, Snapchat, okay, that's great. Are we going to be able to fill enough content for each of those? Are we going to be able to edit, even if it's the same content, are we going to edit and skew it to a way that makes sense for that platform? And if the answer is no, then let's do a couple really well or two really well instead of, loads of them. And sort of, it just dilutes the brand when you're not consistent with it. So for Jaleel, his largest following is actually on Facebook, followed pretty closely by his Instagram. We haven't even touched TikTok for him, not because we don't want to, but purely because we've just been so focused on cultivating the content on his Instagram account. But then there's other people that, like my mixologist, he makes way more sense to really focus a lot of energy and attention on TikTok because it's just the culture that's on that platform. And he's got it's very clear what content can look like for him on TikTok. Like there's a very clear lane. We're making cocktails. So it makes for churning out content on that platform really, really straightforward versus Jaleel. It takes, there's a little more effort that it would take to really do TikTok well for him specifically.
And what's your mixologist's name?
Rob Floyd. So he is the best. So Rob Floyd, such a great guy. I met him actually through a chef client that I was working with who I no longer work with, and just had this moment. And this is something that I've learned throughout my career, which is, and I'm continuously getting better at it, is really trusting that inner voice and trusting that gut. And I was working with a chef and it was just not serving. It was not good. Like it was just a bad dynamic, bad relationship, just bad energy, very much so kind of what I was talking about of like, we got to make millions type of thing. And I was going into the pandemic, or right when the pandemic hit, he was my number one money maker. Like that chef was keeping my business afloat. And I just hated every moment. I couldn't speak about him in a way that felt like I could really authentically and truly and from the deepest part of my heart sell him with like love. And so I, sat there, I wrote my resignation letter and I just like prayed on it. And I was like, universe, like, please help, like, please let this be the right decision. Cause all of a sudden now I've got zero income and we're in the middle of a global pandemic. And I hit send, and 5 minutes later, my phone rang, and it was Rob calling me and saying, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me. I'm Rob Floyd, the mixologist. I'm looking for a manager. Do you want to work with me?" And we've literally talked about doing the, I don't know. I mean, it's just so crazy. So we've done like 15 times more than I ever did with the chef with Rob. And he is just the kindest, most awesome soul and wild, but he's on the show Bar Rescue. We do all of the beverage programs for Carnival and Princess Cruise Line, as well as a lot of the big hotel chains. And it's really fun. I don't partake in cannabis, but I will partake in tequila. So he's a really fun one to have on the roster.
And how can we find him? What's it?
So at Rob Floyd, you can also go to his website, which is Rob Floyd Entertainment or robfloydent.com. And in 2020 alone, we did 185 virtual events together. We built out right when he called me. It was the beginning of April of last year. And we were like, you know what, let's pool money and let's build a studio. And so we built a big virtual studio down in Nashville. And now we can ship and sell both cocktail and mocktail kits. So in December for the holidays, we did about 4,000 of them. And we're doing, about 1,000 every single month of cocktail and mocktail kits, which is really fun, and appearances left and right. So he's awesome for anybody that wants some good entertainment.
We're having a great time here on our 76 Capital Leadership Series with Alexy Posner. You can follow Alexy at Alexy Posner. Follow her. She's a great follow on Twitter and Instagram. And it's just someone that, I think you'll really enjoy, and you'll see the things that she does with her clients. And as we start to wind down a little bit of our conversation here on our 76 Capital Leadership Series, Alexy, I got to ask you, there's so many things that we could talk. I feel like we could go on for hours here. We mentioned briefly Sal Paolantonio. I'd love to hear about your relationship with him, he's certainly someone from an NFL perspective. If you watch ESPN or if you know anything about football, he's one of the guys who breaks the stories. He's there on the ground. He always seems to have that great angle, and he has that great, that incredible personality as well. It must be fun working with him.
He is so cool. He is somebody. So I was flying back from the Eagles Dallas game. My brother and I take a trip every single year to an away game for the Birds. And I was flying back this a couple years ago. My flight, I ended up booking a first class ticket, which I never do because it was like $50 more on this 6 a.m. back from Dallas on Monday morning. And I had seat 1A. And so I'm like, somebody was already in seat 1B when I got on. And I was wearing, I'm a sneakerhead. I was wearing bright gold sneakers. So get on the plane, sit down. I have no makeup on. I'm 6 o'clock in the morning flight. And everyone is getting on the plane, high-fiving this gentleman sitting next to me. And they're like, "Hey, oh my, what's up?" And I'm like, is this some CEO that and this is a company retreat and everyone's freaking out. They finally get to meet him. No idea. So we're getting ready to take off, and he turns to me and says, "I like your sneakers." And I said, "I bet they'd look good on you." And he started laughing. And I was like, "I'm Alexy." And he's like, "I'm Sal Paolantonio." I was like, "Cool. What do you do?" No idea. Totally. I don't know, but let's blame it on me not having enough coffee. I did not even remotely register. He was like, "I'm on ESPN. What do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I have an athlete and talent management firm. Nice to meet you." Subtly, I have a party trick. I can type a full sentence, type without breaking eye contact. So I'm typing Sal Paolantonio, hit send, glance down. I was like, "Oh shit, it's a big deal. This is a big deal." Okay, he's not even. So anyway, we end up proceeding to just chat the entire flight, just about life and his family and work and everything. And at the end of the flight, he shook my hand and said, "You're hired." And I was like, "For what?" And he was like, "You're representing me now." And I was like, "Oh. Well, that was an interesting plot twist. Okay, cool." So we've been working together ever since. He's never had a manager or an agent. And he is one of the most it's so fascinating to work with him. He's such a man of morals and character and is so poised all the time. And he's a really, it's been, the opportunities and experiences I've had with him have just been unreal. But yeah, he is very straight-laced, to the point. He's awesome.
Well, the difference between, all the different types of clients that you have today. It's incredible. I mean, is there a certain moment that, one of your proudest moments of being in the business so far, or was it a specific person that you're working with, or was it something that that just happened that you've really been, super proud about?
Oh gosh. There have been so many moments. I think definitely selling my first TV project was really cool, and partnering up with Universal, walking into this like iconic building in the back lot, and like that was a pretty amazing moment. Getting to work with Jaleel is like, it's like a pinch me every single day. Like this last launch, and you're like on the phone with Tiffany Haddish. You're like, wait, what? How is this my life? And what is happening here? That's pretty cool to like being in, when not this past season, but the season before, obviously fans weren't in the stands, getting to go on the field with Sal and back in the locker rooms and asking questions. And he would send me into the visiting team press conferences and have me there, ready to ask, ready to take in what needed to go on. And he was in the, home teams, like the Eagles press conference. So all those moments, to like working with Alex Mack, who I like Googled yesterday how many people from the 2009 draft are still playing. And he's one of a few, Malcolm Jenkins being one of the other ones. Like it's so amazing. And I think the biggest thing that I've just tried to continue to press on myself is like, at the end of the day, I take a moment just to pause and just be thankful, and even rack back through my brain of what happened. Cause I think so much of like what you do, what I do, what people in this industry do, you're so go. And if you don't give yourself that moment just to pause and just like sit in that gratitude and reflect back on what's happened and where you are, it's like, I don't know, I never want to be like the zombie there. I want to be really present to everything, and also be like, this is awesome. Like, what the heck? This is so cool. I try to be as cool as I can most of the time, but it's nice to have those freak out moments too.
Well, it's certainly important to kind of take it all in and realize how lucky we all are to be. I say all the time, like, this is unbelievable. We're in the industry with all the things that we love: sports, tech, entrepreneurs. I mean, this is amazing. We're so lucky at 76 Capital to do this. And, it feels, with this, in hearing all the things that you've done in your career so far, I'm sure there's a lot more that's coming, and we're really excited to stay in touch and figure that all out. But when you think about it right now, and you look out into the world and the kind of values that you have, within your business and with the kinds of individuals that you want to have as clients, do you ever really sort of sit back and say, like, how can we make this world a better place? What are some of the things that we should be doing right now to try to really move things forward and make this world even better than it is today?
Yeah. I mean, one of my most favorite conversations I get to have with anybody, that whether I'm onboarding them as a new client or I've been working with them, is, well, what do you care about? And I work with Kimmel Hill, who's now with the Texans. And Kimmel, when I first started working with him, I was like, what do you care about? And he was like, I don't know, football. I'm like, okay, let's dig into this one a little bit further. And through conversation, it's like, well, he's from Hawaii. He loves to surf. He loves the ocean. I was like, what about ocean conservation? Like, how do you feel about that? What if we host a beach cleanup? And it's like, whether you're super famous, you're an athlete, or you're whatever you are, like, think about what gets that moment for you excited, and then go do it. Go, like, the smallest thing can make a difference. And so we hosted a beach cleanup, and now he is working with one of the largest zero emission jetboard companies, and we're doing a huge cleanup in Houston. And or like Mac Hollins, who has the most amazing heart, and got him involved in Special Olympics. And a year and a half later, he's a global ambassador for Special Olympics, which is so cool. So it's just like, it's taking these little moments and saying, like, it's okay, we're going to plant this seed. It doesn't have to be some big tree today, but like, let's let that grow over time and know that every little step makes an impact. So yeah, like I said, whether you're an athlete, you're a talent, you're an agent, you're whatever the heck you are, like, whatever makes you happy and gives you excitement, like, go put that into some purpose, and just take one small step forward. You'll make an impact.
Well, I did say we were wrapping up, but I have one last thing I have to ask. I mean, it just seems like you have such a good time in your job, right? And so many people, it's a job and then they go and have fun. But it seems like your life is like, is fun because of what you get to do and the kinds of people that you get to meet and work with. Is there something that is that something that you think about? I mean, when you start to really think about growing your business and at the same time, how do you keep up with all these clients, right? I mean, how do you do that? How do you stay in touch with them? Because each and every one of them is different and is unique, and each one is doing like really incredible things. It must be unbelievable to stay in touch with them, but I guess it's fun, so it doesn't feel like work. I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, for sure. I think I talked about it before when I was with those other teams, I felt like I was always hitting these roadblocks. And when I started my own company, it absolutely has been luck, and it's been a lot of hard work. And it's just like, it feels like doors just kind of open, right? Like when you're in your flow, I'm sure it's very similar for you as you've built up this amazing empire, like the right doors keep opening, and kind of trusting in that. And so I think that's really made every single day so exciting, because I'm like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But absolutely, this is my full life. This is everything to me. And I also just feel like, we get one of today, so let's make it really fun and awesome. And I definitely always try to smile and always try to be happy. And that doesn't mean I don't have moments where I'm like my brother just helped me with my taxes because I was like in a ball on the floor crying. Like the thought of doing something like that is like overwhelming to me. But no, I just you live every single day to the fullest and make it feel awesome. But yeah, keeping up with all the clients, I definitely fail a lot. I definitely take a lot of risks and fail and have to say, okay, you could have done better. And I'm very hard on myself. And I just try to check in with everybody every single day and know what's going on. And I'm color coded and organized and live on coffee.
Well, look, it's incredible. It's incredible, all the things that you do. Congratulations. It's been really great having you on our show. I mean, again, you got to follow Alexy Posner. Follow her, at Alexy Posner on Twitter, on Instagram. You'll get to see all the things that she gets to do, the life that she gets to lead with all of these athletes. And as we talked about, it's not always, it's sometimes it's tough. But at the same time, it's amazing that the luck that you get to have, and it's so lucky to spend this time with you do get to do with the clients that you have. So thank you so much for joining our show.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. I'm so grateful to you guys and so grateful to this leadership series. It's been really inspiring, honestly, for me to get to listen to the other stories that you've highlighted. So I am honored to be on it. And thank you for letting me share my messy, delightful story. I appreciate it.
Well, Alexy, thank you so much for joining. And remember, if you're an entrepreneur, an athlete, a student, or a business person who wants to work in this industry, whether it's in the sports betting side of things, whether it's in the talent management side, in the esports industry, the sports tech world, or just in the media industry in general, please reach out to us at 76 Capital. We would love to get to know you, learn, and maybe learn from each other, maybe find ways to work together. You never know. Once again, I'm Wayne Kimmel, and thanks for tuning into this edition of our 76 Capital Leadership Series. And as you know, get out there and go make it happen.